Hey everybody, Darren here. So welcome back to Single Dad Life. Today I'm going to be talking about probably one of the hardest things you're going to have to encounter, and that's trying to figure out what to do after you get separated. And there are so many different issues that you need to think about, and again, I want to make clear this is not legal advice. This is my own personal experience. These are the issues that I encountered, and I'm hoping by sharing these with you and giving you a checklist of things to think about, it'll help you create a roadmap so that when you actually do go speak to an attorney, you're able to discuss these issues and know a little bit about the direction that you want to head. So today, like I said, I'm just going to go through a checklist, and I'm going to talk about some of the issues that you should think about when you're facing separation or divorce. So the first thing obviously is child custody. So if you have any children, and being that this is single dad life, you're going to want to think about who's going to have custody and where the children are going to live. So that's a really important one. And you have to think about joint custody, shared custody. I mean, there's all different types. Along with the children, you have to think about child support. And this is where things sometimes get a little sticky, but all you got to do is Google your state, and almost every state, I know in Maryland, in my personal experience, you can just Google child support calculator, Maryland, and it's right there. And you enter in your income, your ex-spouse's income, and the expenses, and it just spits out a number. It's relatively straightforward. So child support and child custody are two things that you really need to think about when you're going through this process. The other thing you need to think about is holidays. What I ended up doing was we made a list of even years, odd years, with the various holidays, and that's when we get the children for a particular holiday. So for example, if it's a odd year like 2017, it's Thanksgiving. On even year, the other person would get the child. And you got to think about birthdays, the children's and your birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day. So you want to go through a list of all the important events and when you want to have your children, because those occasions are significant. Next, you want to think about health and dental insurance. Who's going to pay for that? If there's any alimony involved, then you want to go through a division of any bank accounts. You want to divide, if you have any debt, you're going to have to think about who's going to take the debt, what portion or percent of the debt. When I met with an attorney, he told me everything's negotiable. Anything's on the table. There's really no set in stone rules, which other than the child support, which is a calculator, but there really are no rules. So this is a very challenging process. It was very, very difficult to go through, and I'm hoping by sharing this with everybody and giving you a list of issues to think about that it might be a little bit easier for you in the future. You have to think about division of any kind of retirement or pension. If you have vehicles, who's going to have them and who's going to pay for them. If you have a business, you got to think about how you're going to divide up any assets or property that the business has. As far as personal tangible property, I'm talking about stuff in the house. So, the couches, the tables, the chairs, anything, electronics, tools, anything in the house. It's really, really best if you can figure out how you want to divide those, because like my lawyer said, if it comes down to it, the court can just order it that it all be sold for pennies on the dollar, and then whatever profits are made are split between the two parties. So you really want to try to negotiate as best you can. You have to divide up stocks, bonds, any other types of assets. You also have a bunch of tax considerations. You got to think about whether you're going to still file as married joint, whether you're going to file separately, who's going to claim the children. There's a lot of tax considerations. So I'm going to post this as a list, so you'll have it and you can use it in the unfortunate circumstance that you need it. But this would have been very, very helpful for me to have, was just a checklist of things that I need to think about. And you know, in separation, divorce, like my attorney said, everything is negotiable, but you need to be reasonable, and it's sometimes hard. You know, there's a lot of emotions involved. I really wish that we would have gone to a mediator instead of to attorneys, because it seems like, you know, their entire motive, and I'm not saying all attorneys. I have a lot of good friends who are attorneys who do family law, but it seems like a lot of them, their objective is to make as much money as possible. I even had one person tell me that when he meets with a client, he tells them, "Don't worry, you call me 24/7, call me anytime you want." And then he says in the back of his head, all he's thinking is cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And you know, that was his quote. He kept telling me cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And you know, that sits in the back of my head all the time, that cha-ching. So, you know, if you're able to work out these details between the two of you, it just makes life a lot easier. The one final note is, when you're actually negotiating these details, I would try to be as detailed as possible, because that's going to avoid you getting dragged back into court, you know, a year down the line, because you didn't actually put something in there and now you're arguing about it. So you want to be as detailed as possible. So next week, I've got big plans for my financial advice. I'm going to explain exactly how you can dig yourself out of a massive amount of debt, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I became debt-free, and I've been debt-free for probably at least a decade now. So that's coming for you next week, and I've got more posts. I'm going to talk about fitness. I'm going to talk about more mindset stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you all soon.